The NFL draft is upon us, and right now it's a bit of a whirlwind as far as where players are going to go. But one thing is for sure, the New York Giants do need a quarterback in this draft. Where are they going to get it, and who? Let's talk about it. Yo, what is going on, everybody? It is your man R0B back at it again with another New York Giants video. And in this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about the upcoming draft here in just a few weeks. And the Giants need a quarterback. And we're going to be talking about possibilities at that quarterback position for the New York Giants, whether that is at 3 or if it's later on in the draft. Before we dive in the video, do me a quick favor. Go ahead and smash that like button. It does help the videos get noticed. Smash that subscribe button. Turn on those bell notifications so that you never miss another upload. We're going to go ahead and we're going to dive right into it. So obviously, like I said, the 2025 draft is upon us here, just a few short weeks. And the New York Giants are going into this in a pretty good position, right? Look, everybody who knows me knows that I want the quarterback, but I won't deny that the Giants have put themselves in a position where they don't need to force a quarterback pick if they're not completely sold on the quarterback. My feeling is going to be different from what their feeling is, right? And so, but we're going to talk about the possibilities of quarterbacks, and I'm going to give my opinion on said quarterbacks, and we'll go from there. So, the New York Giants pick at 3, and I think it's at this particular point in time, it could be pretty much a guarantee. Oh, I don't want to say guarantee, but it's a pretty good chance that Cam Ward goes 1 to the Tennessee Titans. And then it's kind of up in the air, right? There are a couple of scenarios where the Browns could take Shedeur Sanders at 2. The Browns could pass on Shedeur Sanders and go with Travis Hunter at 2 or Abdul Carter at 2. Either way, if they do pass on Shedeur Sanders, he would be available for the New York Giants at the 3rd overall pick. Now, a lot of people, for some reason, have negative opinions about Shedeur Sanders. They question his arm strength. They question his processing ability. They say that he's not a quick processor. Some people don't like his personality. They bring Dion into it. But there are some really good things about Shedeur Sanders that I like. I think he's got great pocket presence, although at times he can get maybe, I don't want to say happy feet, but he was sacked a lot, right? But for the most part, he stays calm, right? He stays calm in the pocket, will stand in the face of a rush and deliver a pass. He's able to reset the pocket too. He's got really good pocket movement. He can get out of the pocket. He's got mobility. He can reset it, move, roll out left or right to try to make a play. He's really, really accurate, can really put the ball wherever he wants to put the football. He's got a nice deep ball. He had his pro day yesterday, throws a really, really nice deep ball, but he's on time, right? He's an all-around pocket passing quarterback, He's not a guy that's probably going to rush for 100 yards in a game or something like that, but he's good. His arm is good enough for the National Football League. And I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I think he's going to be really, really good in this league. And he's going to shock a lot of people that have some negative opinions about him. He's going to go ahead and he's going to shock a lot of people of how good he's going to be in this league. But the Giants potentially at that point would have the open possibility of drafting him at number 3, right? And so we're going to dive in to... we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into Shedeur's profile here, and we'll take a look and see what he's got here. So, and let me open up that camera there. So this is Shedeur Sanders, right? Pretty decent grades over the last couple of years. 83.7 in 22, 88.4 in 23, 90.9 overall grade in 2024. The biggest thing is he stayed pretty consistent when it comes to his numbers. Threw for 3,743 yards in 2022. He had 40 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. I want to say that was at Jackson State in 2022, but don't quote me on that. But 40 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. passer rating of 114.5. And then in 2023, 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 3,200 yards. He had a passer rating of 107.9. And then last year, 4,133 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a passer rating of 116. The biggest thing here is he hovers right near 70% completion. 2022 was 70.6. Last year, in 2023, it was 68.5. And then last year, I think it was the highest in the Big 12, if not in the NCAA, 73.4. I mean, he's extremely accurate, right? And the biggest thing is here also games played all games. I know he missed 2 games in 2022, but in 2024 and 2022, he played all 13 games in his collegiate career. Now, when you break down it game by game, right, he's had some lower games, like in the 60s range, but for the most part, he had some pretty good games. That Nebraska game was pretty tough. His offensive line last year was not very good. And that's the biggest thing, too, is that Shedeur Sanders was doing this with a terrible offensive line. They had a freshman that was playing left tackle this year because their offensive line was so bad, and he just was not very good. And so, games like Nebraska, where they've got Ty Robinson, they've got Hutmacher, they have a really, really good front, and they were just terrorizing him all day long. All day long, they were getting to him. And so the Nebraska game was pretty tough, but he bounced back, right? Bounced back with the following game of an overall grade of 90.2, 80.2, but UCF, he struggled. Bounced back a little bit, had an okay game. I believe this is Auburn here, 64.8, 62. And then, he finished the season somewhat strong. Kansas State, 80.5. University, what is that? What is that? Oklahoma? I don't know who that is, but the abbreviations. I don't know the abbreviations, guys. I apologize. But overall, you kind of get the point. I mean, look at this. Passing grade, he's got 90.5. Intermediate grade, he's got 92.8. No pressure grade, 93. Deep ball, 94.8. Pressure grade, 65.2, right? So we struggle around them, but I think that this right here, this pressure grade, I think is a little bit skewed because his offensive line was just so bad, and it was really hard for him at times to try to make something happen. But intermediate grade, he's got a high grade, right? No pressure grade, meaning when he's got no pressure whatsoever, he can dice you up at 93 overall, or 93%, right? 94.8 grade as far as his deep ball. You saw it yesterday in his pro day. He's got a beautiful deep ball. And his overall passing grade is a 90.5, right? To me, Shedeur Sanders, although he's not Michael Penix, he's not this flashy guy, he's a good quarterback. He really is. And the biggest thing with Shedeur is he's changed programs everywhere he's went. He changed Jackson State. He did it to Colorado. I don't get why he gets a lot of hate, but Shedeur Sanders to me is a guy that I would 100% take a swing on at number 3. I really, really would. When you just listen to Brian Dable and Joe Shane and some of the things that they talk about, they want somebody that's accurate. They want somebody that can throw on time. They want somebody that look at where we struggled, which was the middle of the field, deep balls down the field, right? We brought in Russell Wilson where he struggles reading the intermediate field, but he throws an amazing deep ball, right? Those are the type, this guy, he would come here and automatically, and our offensive line isn't nothing to sneeze at either, but it's better than what he had in Colorado. And I think that he would be able to do great things with the New York Giants, having to throw to Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Theo Johnson, having Tyrone Tracy coming out of the backfield, Darius Slayton. And you know what? If you want, you can dip into the draft and you can get a Will Shepherd or something like that if you want to give him somebody he's familiar with, that he can build some chemistry with, right? I like Shedeur Sanders. I would definitely go ahead and take Shedeur Sanders at 3, and I would roll with it. And you don't necessarily need to start him right away. You've got You've got Russell Wilson. You've got Jameis Winston. I think that he would probably be the second quarterback on the depth chart if we were to draft him. But he doesn't have to get rushed out onto the field, and you can groom him along and wait for him to get ready, right? So for me, Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback. I think he's going to be special in the National Football League, and I would 100% take a swing on Shedeur Sanders at number 3. Now, obviously, there are situations where the New York Giants, right? What if Shedeur Sanders goes too, right? And Shedeur Sanders isn't available to the Giants. Or the thing I dread the most is that they take this guy right here or this guy right here, because one of them is available, and they pass on the quarterback at 3. Well, let's talk about that. Another quarterback that is available in this draft is Mr. Jackson Dart. And look, I like Jackson Dart. I do. I actually like Jackson Dart. I like his aura. I like his strong arm. I like how he runs. I like his power. I like Jackson Dart. I think he has a really good zip on the football, can do a lot better with maneuvering in the pocket, but he isn't a one-read system there with Ole Miss. But I like the fact that, he's got a strong arm. He can really zip it. He gives you that big play capability down the field. He can run. I like his game. When you look at his overall grade, right, 92.5 last year, 91.2 in 2023, and he had a low grade in 2022. Now, he doesn't jump out at you, right, when it comes, to touchdowns, right? And again, this is only showing you passing touchdowns, not showing you any of his rushing touchdowns, but he had a low season in 2022, 2,974 yards, 62% completion, 20 touchdowns, 11 picks. But the last 2 years, he got better. He got a lot better. 3,363 yards in 2023. Completion percentage is 64.5, which is good. 23 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions. And then last year, 29 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 4,276 yards per average. These last couple of years, 9.3, 10.7, and he had his highest completion percentage over the last 3 years, 69.2, right around close to that 70 range, right? So, again, people could say it's Lane Kiffin's offense and whatnot. I like Jackson Dart. I don't like him enough to take him at 3. I don't like him enough to take him at 3. If you bypass on the quarterback at 3 and you take a Travis Hunter or you take an Abdul Carter and he's dropping in the draft, I'm okay with taking him in the 20s. I'm also okay with taking him at 34. Not a lot of people like Jackson Dart, and I get it, right? There's a potential bust factor with Jackson Dart, but 6'2", 225. I like him. I like him. He's got power. I like a quarterback that can run a little bit, or if you're gonna run like that, like big enough to truck. He's got some game to him. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the National Football League, but it depends on where he goes. How quickly is he getting on the field? So on and so forth. When you look at his grades, right, passing grade was right around where Shedeur's was, right? 91.9. Shedeur was 90.5 or 90.9. And he's 91.9. Intermediate, 94.4. I believe he was better than Shedeur there in the intermediate. Deep ball, 92.6. No pressure, 93.4. Under pressure, 69. And he is, one thing that I will say with Jackson Dart is he can still throw the ball under pressure. I've seen him multiple times with a guy in his face, lets it rip, and he can do that. Now, I still think, even with this, I still think that Shedeur Sanders is the better quarterback, the better overall quarterback. But if you're bypassing Sanders at 3 or he's not there at 3 and you get the best player, one of the 2 best players in the draft, I am 100% okay with either trading back in at the back end of the first round, from the 20s on, or taking him at 34 if he's there. If they don't take him at 34, I'm like, okay. I'm not going to be mad about it, depending on what other player is there. But I would say I wouldn't mind taking the swing on Jackson Dart at 34, or if they were to trade back in at the back end of the first round, like say 20 or 19 or something like that, I wouldn't be upset at taking him either. And he could still sit. He could still learn, next to, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, and you don't have to rush him back out onto the field, and you could just kind of teach him and gradually bring him along, right? So that's Jackson Dart. Now, the other quarterback, because there are some other possibilities here. The possibilities is that Shedeur Sanders goes 2 or the Giants pass. And either way with that, there's no guarantee that you're going to get Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart could go 9 to the New Orleans Saints. He could go 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He can go 18 to the Seattle Seahawks. There are teams that could potentially take a swing on Jackson Dart. The other guy that I like in this draft, and I know with some people that I talk to, it may seem like I don't like Jalen Milroe, and I get why. I shit on the guy a little bit, but I do like Jalen Milroe. I don't necessarily like him in this draft. Like I'm not bypassing Shedeur and Jackson Dart to take Jalen Milroe. Now Milroe could very easily become the better of the 3. He could very easily become better than Jackson Dart. That's a very good possibility. I just feel like it's a little bit risky given their situation that they're currently in, and he's a project. He's got a passing grade of 78.3, intermediate is 90.7, deep is 93.1, under pressure is 88.7, or no pressure, and then pressure grade is 51.6. I don't believe that he started in 2022, but he started in 2023, threw for 2,839 yards. That was with Nick Saban, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, passer rating of 116.4, had a completion percentage 65.6. Last year, a little bit of a downer year, right? 63.3% completion, 2,834 yards. Yards per average, 10 in 2023, 8.7, so it dropped in 2024, and he had 16 touchdown passes to 11 interceptions, a 93.3% or passer rating, and he played all 13 games. Look, there are things to Jalen Milroe that I like. He is probably the most athletic quarterback in this draft. He is like freak athleticism. He can run the ball. If he gets to the outside, he can damn near outrun safeties and DBs. He is that quick. He's got a strong arm. His deep ball is amazing. You see the deep ball grade, 93.1. He's got a great deep ball. Intermediate wise, he has moments, and then he doesn't have moments, right? I don't want to say that it's a struggle for him in the intermediate route, but it's definitely an area of improve. I think that he's a guy that needs to take a little bit more of what the defense gives him, so to speak, and get better at that, and not necessarily always look for the big time play or to run. But he is a project, and he comes with some really good athleticism. He's a guy that I wouldn't have minded last year if he came out last year. I wouldn't have minded them taking a swing, right? Because Daniel Jones was here, and, he's a project guy. Daniel Jones could have gone down last year. You put him in. 6'2", 225, but he's 22 years old, right? He's 22 years old, and I think at that point with him, there's upside there, right? So what? If he sits for a year, 2 years potentially, at the most, right? You're looking at him taking over at 24 years old. I mean, that's not bad. But I mean, if he were to be ready next year to take over, you're talking about a 23-year-old quarterback. Granted, look, at this point, I want Brian Daboll and I want Joe Shane to succeed. I hope that they get it right. But you can't guarantee it. And if they get it right, I would like them to be able to be back next year. And this is the biggest thing is I think it would hurt Jalen Milroe a little bit to have Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka and Shea Tierney and learning that offense and learning that system and getting coached year one to then have all of those guys get fired and having to learn a brand new system in year two. I have more faith in a guy like Shedeur Sanders, who's been in 6 different systems throughout his career, 6 different offensive coordinators, and he's been able to produce throughout each of those years. Jackson Dart, I know he's had Kiffin over, for the last couple of years, but, I would probably maybe put Jackson Dart and Milroe in the same vicinity, where I think it would set them back a little bit, having to go ahead and learn a new system. That doesn't mean that they can't. I just think it would take them a little bit longer than it would with Shedeur Sanders. But overall, look, if you miss out on Shedeur Sanders or you don't take him, and then you miss out on Jackson Dart or you don't take him, Jalen Milroe is the next man up. And I would not have an issue with a guy like Jalen Milroe. I wouldn't have an issue with it. I guess if they missed out on Shedeur and they missed out on Jackson Dart, I wouldn't have an issue with it. If they passed on Shedeur and passed on Jackson Dart, meaning if they traded back into the first round, or at 34, Jackson Dart and Milroe are both on the field or both on the board, and they take Milroe over Jackson Dart, then I would be upset. But if Milroe is what's left, then I'm not mad at it, right? I'm not mad at it. So get Dart or get Shedeur, and if both of those guys are gone, then you take Milroe. But if you bypass on both of those guys to take Milroe, I'm going to be a little bit concerned. I'm going to be a little bit upset about that. Now, I know in the thumbnail I've only got 3 quarterbacks, but I'll bring up one more. I don't know too much about this guy. He's been kind of coming up this year as of late, and that's Tyler Shough. Tyler Shough, I think he's 25 years old. He's 6'5", 225, out of Louisville. Bounced around a little bit, suffered some injuries, but last year was with Louisville. Threw for 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, had a passer rating of 101.1, 3,191 yards, yards per average, or per attempt, 8.2, and he had a 62.1% completion. Now, I'm only bringing this up because there are talks about this guy going early. And so with Tyler Shough, look, I like Tyler Shough. I think from what I've watched, he can throw the ball really good. He can make all the throws. I think that this is a guy that you go after if you've got a really secured veteran. I think that this would be good for a team like, say, the Rams, if they wanted to take a shot at him. I think there's, that Sean McVay would be able to do some things there. I don't necessarily think that if I'm the Giants, that's not necessarily a move, that I'm making, right? Bypassing the other guys in the draft. I would rather go on the higher upside of Jalen Milroe than Tyler Shough. But I like Tyler Shough. I think he's an intriguing prospect, and it's going to be interesting to see how high he goes, where he goes, and how he progresses and how he looks. For all we know, this could be Brandon Weeden of this year's draft. Who knows, right? So we'll see. But he is getting some buzz, and there are talks about him going higher than where he's ranked. And so, I mean, he's got the size, right? 6'5", 225, intermediate 92.1, no pressure 91.6, deep ball 91.8, overall passing grade 87.7, under pressure he's got a 62.6. So, but those are the options for the New York Giants, really at the quarterback spot. Look, at the end of the day, the New York Giants need to make the right decision. And for me, the right decision is you take a swing on the quarterback when you have the opportunity to take the swing on the quarterback. You don't want to be picking 3 again And if you're not picking 3 because a veteran that's 37, that's going to be 37, during the season, is the reason why you're not picking 3rd overall or picking high, it kind of puts you in a tough spot where now you got to try to give up a crazy amount of draft capital to then try to force a quarterback pick. Or you don't even know necessarily if you're going to have a partner to play with, right? What if somebody doesn't want to trade with you? You know what I mean? So, you put yourself at the whim of others. And right now, I feel like if Shedeur Sanders drops to 3, you have control. And I feel the second that you pass on Shedeur Sanders to go with Travis Hunter, you were giving up control, and you were putting your fate of your job, you're putting your fate of the rest of this draft in others' hands. And to me, that's a risky thing to potentially do. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think. Who do you guys like as far as the quarterbacks? Is there a quarterback that I didn't mention that you like, that you'd like for me to go ahead and look at? Let me know down in the comments section down below. And who do you think out of those quarterbacks that I covered with Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, Shedeur Sanders, who do you think is most likely to land on the New York Giants? Be sure to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. It does help with the algorithm, helps those videos get noticed, and I greatly appreciate it very, very much. Also, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on those bell notifications so that you never miss another upload. I'm R0B, signing off. Go Giants.